Welcome to J Lowe Artist YouTube channel. Today we're doing watercolors on 300 series cold press illustration board. It's a lot of fun, it's good practice, and we'll be learning some techniques of just direct painting. Nothing really advanced or anything, but it's good practice. So come on along and do some painting with us. Remember, art makes life better. So, I think we're ready to do the lighthouse. Everything should be really dry, and so your lighthouse should be your wet on dry kind of a thing with very little water in your brush. And go ahead and do your lighthouse. Just the very tip of your brush needs to have paint on it. My brush is kind of clunky. I mean, you can see that it does have a point, but you have to just barely touch it if you're gonna use that point to your advantage. Remember, when you clean your brush, dip it in the water, let it sit for a minute, and then clean the paint off on your towel, not in your water. The shadow parts, this is created by just a little bit of purple in there. You never want to use black in your shadows, unless they're a crevice, unless they're really dark. Purple's just a good color for all sorts of things. Well, I've got the purple in my brush. I'm going to go ahead and do this shadow on the lighthouse. The lighthouse is our focal point. That's our emphasis area. So you want to just make sure that it's nice, because that's what people are going to be looking at. I'm just going to add a little bit of purple to my blue on that other edge. So it's just a little bit darker, but I need the purple for the contrast. Almost blends into your sky. To get my colors really dark, I sometimes will take brown and stick in there first, and then layer in purple. The yellow that's in there will counteract the purple, and it'll go dark, but it won't be black. And that's what you want. You want it dark without being black. I'll do the same thing with a lot of the little crevices and cracks and things. Well, I have a little bit on my brush. I'm just going to a little bit of that lighthouse and just pick out some darker areas. You got to keep your brush pretty dry for this. Kind of what we call the dry brush technique. I gave him a little bit more room in his outbuilding. That figured they needed a little bit more space there. I don't know. And while I'm at it, I'm going to start working on some of the rocks there by the... I've still got that dark in my brush. Just going to brush that through the cracks and the crevices. Little brown. So if you want to make good like pine trees and things like that that are really dark, little brown with some blue. The red that's in the brown will make it go a little purple, and the yellow that's in there will make it go a little green. So you'll get a lovely, it's almost like a dark green. It's a great shadowy area. So anything that's kind of dark, some brown with some purple or some blue in there. Either one will look fabulous. Because everything's dry, you're going to get sharper edges, which is going to bring it forward a little bit, make it stand out. And you're just dabbling it in, just kind of touching it, just barely touching the tip of it. And as you do, all that stuff is coming out of your brush. You don't have to reload it very often. I'm just barely dragging along the surface. Some places you need a little more, some places less. But notice how that starts to bring it forward. And the cool thing is that sky that you hate, you know, you did your sky and you're like, oh, I hate that sky. Once you start doing all this foreground stuff, that sky gets pushed to the back and nobody notices it. And all of a sudden, the sky looks pretty good. I don't know. Maybe you love your sky. I shouldn't have said you hate your sky. I hate my skies. Just about every sky I do, I hate. Then I have to remind myself that it's just background. So this last summer I did a painting of a mermaid, and I was determined to have beautiful clouds and great sky behind her, all these cool colors. She was sitting on a rock in the ocean. I didn't like it. But then when I was done with it, it's like everything went in the background and the sky looks just fine now. Clouds are happy, drifting on by. So when you want that contrast, a little bit of brown with your blues or your purples, whichever you like. What I want to do down in here is I love that peachy, pinky purple kinds of colors that are down in here. And it gets really dark down in there, and then your blues. And so I'm going to do the same thing I did with the sky. I want all those colors down in there. So I'm just going to get that all wet. I'm just going to drop in my colors, just like we did with the sky. Then I'll move into the water, and then I'll detail it with some contrast, some darker darks. And here, you may want to mix a little bit on your palette. So I'm going to just mix a little bit up here. I'm going to grab some of that purple up in there, mix a little bit up in there, and get rid of all my color. Maybe grab a little red, put in with my purple, a little red violet. And then I'm going to just drop that down in there. Let it do its thing. And it's kind of, fuzzing out there. That's okay. Let it go fuzzy. This is all wet, so I'm just pulling out some of that purple stuff, and if you need it wet, add some more water to it. Just let it fuzz. Some of this over by the rocks needs to be a little purpley too, so you grab that, put it up in there. Remember, we're not trying to be perfect with these rocks. Just add whatever color you feel like you need in there. Need a little yellow, I think. Ooh, that's far too bright. That's okay. Because if I hit some of that yellow with this purple, it's going to tone it down. Maybe a little bit of red. I just need it for a base coat anyway. While that's going and drying a little bit, I'm going to move to the water, and I'm going to do the water with some blues. I do want to keep some of that white area in the water where the caps are, So as you go through it, do it kind of like we did the sky, and just don't be afraid to leave some white. Kind of floating by, try to get the right texture of the water. Got mostly blue with a tiny bit of purple in there. So if you can see what I'm doing, just go ahead and just don't be afraid to leave a little white just showing through. Very linear. Everything in water is very back and forth linear. And just back and forth. And it'll fuzz out. It'll do its thing. Don't be too pushy with it. I love that crashing wave that's right there, that's white, but I think I probably did too much there. That's okay. Don't be afraid to be kind of impressionistic. If you look at it and you think, well, that's blue, just go ahead and use blue. If it's too much, you can tone it down with a little bit of orange. Ultimately, though, it's you have to satisfy. You're doing art for you, not doing it for me. There's a lot of blue in these rocks. One of the last things I'm going to do is I want those shadows nice and blue. Put that blue in there over the top of things. Just let it fuzz out. The key to watercolors is not to work it too much. You work it just enough and then you let it just go. And sometimes it does something that you didn't really intend it to do. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you think, what happened? That's watercolors. So got just a tiny bit of orange. Just going over some of these rocks with some of that orange. If it hits the blue, it's going to go kind of brown gray. If it hits the yellow, it's going to go more yellow orange. The purple, it might turn a little reddish. That's okay. Just going to let it do its thing. Sometimes when you're painting ocean scenes and horizons, you need a piece of tape to stick over there, and then your ocean, your horizon is nice and tight. Mine's a little wavy. That's okay. Try and tighten that up a little bit. I probably use more purple than any other color in my watercolor sets because it just is beautiful color and it's good for all sorts of things. Anything dark. So there's still a little bit of moisture from on my surface there. So now when I go in with my dry brush, I can still keep that little bit of hard edge going on there. But still kind of have the fuzzy edges. And it doesn't last long, especially here in Utah. It gets so dry. You know, you just kind of learn to live with whatever you're doing. If you're back east and, you know, it's 95% humidity, it just does not dry out very quick. And sometimes that's nice because then you can You can blend your edges and things. And other times you think, I wish it would dry out faster. I know that there's quite a few people who like to use blow dryers and stuff. So they'll have little blow dryers near them. But I like this dry air. I've just learned to adjust to it. I like the dry brush technique, where you put just a little bit of moisture in there, and it just seems like your brush goes on forever. Just nice edges. I often get the comment when I tell people that I'm an artist, they go, oh, I don't have the patience for that. I think you get what you want. And I think patience is not something that you're born with. It's not like you can go out and purchase it somewhere and say, oh, I'd like some more patience. I think it's an attitude. I think it's something that you develop. Watercolors will help you develop that. It's just a whole patience thing. Going up the beach, I'm just doing brown over the top of all that stuff, and then I'll do some purple over the top of that. And that brown will mix with all sorts of things. Brown is kind of your, well, red and green make the best brown in my opinion. Sometimes I like to mix my own brown. Sometimes I just use what's there. But it'll mix with all sorts of things. You can take purple or green or red or blue and go over that brown. Remember that texture is very important. Try to keep that texture going. I'm not following the texture that's there. I mean, I'm not, every rock isn't the right one, but I'm just kind of getting the attitude of it. Also, my little areas, you know, we talked about giornate, the little sections. In frescoes, giornate means a day. It's what you can cover in that one section. For here, how I've covered it with my watercolors, I'm using that to my advantage and just saying, well, I'm going to use that little shape as a rock, you know, rather than following the rock that's there. I'm just going to pretend that I had that rock planned all along. And if you want to blend a little bit, you can scumble your edges just a little bit. Don't go too far. Don't rub it too much. How do you know what's too much? Until you've done it, then you're like, that's too much. So I guess quit before you think it's too much. This dark stuff along the edge is probably seaweed and stuff that is washed up and is dying, decaying. I think the key to a good watercolor is bright, vibrant colors and texture. Even if it's that blotchy kind of bled-in texture that happens with watercolors that you just kind of naturally assume is going to happen, that's okay. Don't be afraid to leave that texture in there. Just and if it's on the wet and it starts to bleed, let it bleed. Let it do its thing. It's gonna be just fine. We're getting ready to finish up here. And as you do, you kind of look and say, okay, where do I want my signature? Where's a good place to put that? I think right here in the water for me would be good. I'm going to do it with purple or blue, a little of both, I guess. You want to get to that point because we're just about done here. I appreciate you being here today. Appreciate you painting along. And hopefully this has been kind of fun for you and you've been able to figure out some things and do some things that you've never tried or never done before. And I think that's part of the key to any education, to get a little experience. Some of the stuff you'll do again, some of it you may never do it again. Sometimes all it takes is just a little bit of appreciation to say, gee, I've done that before, it's not as easy as it looks, I appreciate people who can. Leave it at that. Maybe somewhere along there, you get a greater appreciation for the beauties of the earth. And if that's all I've done for you, that's enough. Thanks for painting with me, and I hope you guys all have a great day. And remember, art makes life better.